My name is Vincent Sweeney. I'm the lighthouse keeper here in Blacksod Point Lighthouse, County Mayo. I look after the lighthouse. The main thing is to make sure our navigational aids are in working order and our main light is on when it's supposed to be on. My father was lighthouse keeper here in Blacksod since 1933, so there was a strong tradition in the lighthouse service, so just carried it on. My father was attendant at Blacksod Lighthouse. He retired in 1980. He was one of the longest serving lighthouse keepers. He passed a lot on to us, and it was a big influence. He was well known, a great character, and as I say, his influence spread to us, so we took it from there.
To London, well, the arrangements they made was that I got a tin.
You'd see him too, a lot of commercial fishermen or foreign vessels coming in. The main place to come to if they were in trouble or to call to was the lighthouse, and maybe organising medical help or something like that. He used to do that, and generally it was real caring for the mariner. A local contractor by the name of Brian Carey from Balmulloch built the lighthouse. It was established or finally completed on the 30th of June 1866. Brian used local granite stone in Blacksod here to build it. That probably led to the square shape of the lighthouse. The old stone masons, they were there chiselling away and making square blocks mostly, because the lighthouse is square, and it's that lovely pinky tinge in the granite, the Blacksod pink granite they call it. So it's a nice stone. I believe the cost at the time to build the lighthouse was £2,500, which is probably a big sum in those days. The stone from the lighthouse was right alongside the lighthouse, just down the shore. In fact, the lighthouse is built on the same shore, so it was easy to get the granite to the site. In those times there was a quarries there. A Reverend Palmer had a quarries, and he had a little railway with little carriages, and they used to bring the granite over on those carriages past the lighthouse, and they'd bring it to the pier also for export, because that same stone was exported to England. I believe some of it maybe in the Houses of Parliament, and probably some in Cardiff or Swansea and Wales. So it was left at the front door of the lighthouse by Reverend Palmer, and from the tramways they had to transport the granite from the quarries to the pier. So the lighthouse, of course, is at the top of the pier, so that was so handy. the lighthouse keeper's job, and still his primary job, is to make sure the navigational aids at a lighthouse are working. The main navigational aid would be the light. Some lighthouses, especially in the old days, had fog signals. So a part of their duty when they were on watch was to check, in the event of fog, they had to start up the fog signal. They used to keep an eye out for ships, trawlers and yachts. It wasn't part of their brief to do that, as in a kind of a Coast Guard type thing, but they used to do it, and it was all for the well-being of the mariner. Growing up in the lighthouse was just fascinating in more ways than one. Meeting people, there was a lot of people passing through, lighthouse keepers, fishermen, boat contractors who had to go to Blackrock Lighthouse to exchange keepers. The radio would be on, you'd hear all the chatter, and bad weather, good weather, big influence. You would be pinned in the lighthouse maybe for a week. You wouldn't be able to go outside in storms. On the other hand then, when the weather was good in summer, you'd be pottering around, playing on the shore, in rock pools, and the imagination would run wild, and you'd pretend you were a fisherman. We used to make little wooden boats or tin boats and use bean tins as lobster pots and be pottering away. It was good fun. Before television. Good. We had to make our own fun, and it was exciting. In my dad's time in this lighthouse, before the light was electrified in 1967, it was run on gas, settling gas. We had what was called a generator store downstairs in the front yard. And my dad used to get carbide pellets, and he would mix the carbide pellets with water, thus creating settling gas. Dangerous stuff in its own way, but handled properly it was quite safe, and he was very thorough in that. Yes, from the 1930s onwards up to the middle 50s, there was a weather station here. They had weather, but yeah, they used to measure rainfall and wind speed, wind direction, cloud formations. I remember my dad having a book, and all the clouds were in it, so he had to learn all that off. During the war then, as 1944 approached, he was requested to give the weather every hour on the hour and every hour on the half hour. And of course, in hindsight, we know now it was all because of Operation Overlord, which was the invasion, Normandy, D-Day.
Allied naval forces, supported by strong air forces, began landing Allied armies this morning on the northern coast of France.
The invasion was planned for the 5th of June 1944, and my father was requested to give the forecast from Blacksod, being the most northwesterly point and weather station. So he gave it, and that weather forecast was not suitable for an invasion, because it came across Ireland, down through England, into the English Channel, and it was blown near gale. So the D-Day landings, Operation Overlord, was postponed for one day, and it went ahead on the morning of the 6th of June 1944. And that is as a result of the forecast from Blacksod. The end result of it is that Europe was liberated, and only for that, if there was any more delays, the tides wouldn't have been right, and it would have given the Germans time to bring extra troops and more panzer divisions into Normandy if they got wind of an invasion. It's only in the last number of years that it has come to light more. Brendan McWilliams, God rest him, who used to write Weather Eye in the Irish Times, a great meteorologist who worked for Met Éireann. I think he was one of the first ones to bring it to light in his Weather Eye article. Tommy McLean was the first man to row the Atlantic. In 1969, 30th of July, he arrived in Blacksod. He left St. John's in Newfoundland, and it took him 67 days to row across the Atlantic in what was called a Yorkshire dory, a good little seaboat. It's about 17, 18 foot long. My father and mother were getting ready to go to church. There was a knock on the door, and my father went to the door and opened the door, and this chap said, "I'm Tom McLean, I've just rowed the Atlantic." My father at that time looked at this chap and thought, this guy should be put into an asylum, this is impossible. Tommy was clean shaven, and it looked like he had just come out of a Rolls Royce or something. He was spotless. But as it happened, the reason for that was the name of his boat was Super Silver, sponsored by Gillette Blades. And I guess it was part of the sponsorship, and maybe that he had to be clean shaven. But he certainly proved that the blades worked because he was spotless. My dad then took a while to believe him, checking him out, looking him over. So eventually my dad did realise that this chap was after doing a great feat. So they rang some of the papers in England, and from that then everything started to unravel, and everything started to go like a snowball. It just rolled on and on. Press people arrived from England, from Ireland, TV cameras, and there was pandemonium in Blacksod. Blacksod was really put on the map, maybe for a second time, with this chap coming in. Tommy was ex-military. He was small, built like a brick, as tough as nails. So he did very well.
Tom McLean, for 72 days you've been rowing the Atlantic on your own. Did you feel lonely at all?
Well, the first 3 weeks was lonely, getting used to being out there, you know. It's after all the people, big build-up, then you're on your own. You felt lonely there, but towards the centre, you got used to it.
How did you feel when you first sighted the Irish coast?
Chuffed.
And would you do it again?
No, I don't think I would.
The weather is such an important thing. We live side by side with the weather. The weather can affect our job, it can affect performance, it can bring in ships in for shelter. You have communications with them. Helicopter reliefs to other lighthouses can be stopped. That goes hand in hand, seeing as we live right on the coast. If it's too bad, you just have to put things on hold and wait for the weather to abate. On the 5th of January 1991, there was between a culmination of gales and very high tides, on the morning of the 5th, there was a deep depression in the Atlantic. That moved rapidly towards us. So that brought that gale up to a storm. Because of the high tides and the pressure outside in the Atlantic, the bay was kind of bottlenecked, if you like. The water could not leave the bay. So it had only one place to go, and that was to rise. It hit the lighthouse on the morning of the 5th, and the wall collapsed, and the water flowed into the lighthouse. It was a metre deep in the lighthouse. The kitchen, the fridge, the washing machine, they were all tumbled. They became buoyant with the water and they toppled over. It was a right mess. Our store outside was knocked. All our electricity was gone. And when I came down at first light and managed to get into the place, there were tears in my eyes because of the destruction. Knowing I had grown up here as a child and later on lived here and brought my own children up, it was a sight for sore eyes, and it was very, very sad. If we were living here during that storm, there was only one place to go, and that was upstairs. Now I'm sure there would have been terror, and my wife would have been terrified, my children would have been terrified. You would have to go upstairs and just have to hang on until the weather abated and the tide dropped, and then just leave in the relative safety of the weather being calm again. I'm putting on the DVD for you, all right?
Yeah, hold it on there.
I enjoy it, yeah. It'll get busy in April, for example, busier because we have to do spring work, because we have an inspection by the commissioners of Irish Lights that go around checking all the lights on the coast. So we have what's called spring work. We have to get a certain amount painted and to clean up the whole place and have it spick and span for the inspection.
Change it now to yellow from white.
White line mark paint. You must be going down the pads. What colour are your pads out there? White and just white?
White and the green ones is red.
Oh, okay. And there's some other paint there in the box, but that'll be
What are you doing with 12 cans of paint? 12 cans of paint isn't going to go halfway on the wall.
I don't know. She'll be talking to him tonight.
That'll be repointing the old dwellings, the storeroom now, the three roof. Be repointing that and the wall.
Every 3 weeks, unless an emergency breakdown on a lighthouse offshore that's in the chopper. Straight away. The wind has changed. 310 at 17. The personnel are ready to come ashore from Eagle Island. So he's gone out to Eagle Island now to get them in and then transfer the ground crew here out to Blackrock for an overnight. Lima Sierra Black Saudi, you'll be with me in 2 minutes, okay?
Lima Sierra, Black Sword on the approach to Black Rock, over.
Landed on the Black Rock.
Okay, you've landed, okay. We're operating with different types of helicopters all the time.
568.
We work with the search and rescue helicopters, which are Sikorsky S-61s or Sea Kings from the RAF or the Royal Navy.
A different aspect came to my work in 1992 when the Department of the Marine, or come Coast Guard as it's now known, built a helipad as a bigger helipad for bigger rescue choppers. They made it a forward refueling base, so that took on a new dimension completely.
That's nice working with them. It's nice to be able to help them out, because you, especially in winter time, if they have a mission on way 200, 250 miles out into the Atlantic, and it might be blowing a gale or a good storm, you wish them in your heart, you feel that everything will go okay and that they'll be safe. It's part of a team. It's all teamwork, so all is well that ends well.
Nowadays, the present day technology is moving so fast, really moving so fast, and we have a very not a great economic situation, and that includes the lighthouse service as well. So yes, there's been a lot of redundancies, cutbacks, and we would expect to see more cutbacks. The human aspect, yeah, we've lost that a good few years ago when keepers were made redundant and lighthouses closed down, but I think we've got used to it, and I think modern technology with satellite navigation and stuff, I think we're a bit insignificant now.
I can look back on as my days as a lighthouse keeper with satisfaction, definitely satisfaction. A lighthouse keeper has to be a kind of a breed of its own.